So I don't know if you can hear it right now, but the Soap and Clay kidlets are just out right here with Mr. Soap and Clay, and the kidlets are throwing maple leaves into the fire pit. And I've talked about the sheer number of maple leaves that I have on this property many, many times before. And the fire is going, it's a great time, and they are throwing the leaves in and watching them crackle and pop and throw off different sparks and colors. And it's a weird, delightful time back there. And I really want to go be a part of it. But first, I'm going to be a part of this with you because it's time to do that thing today. I'm going to tell you what that thing is in just a minute. But before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things, and you are here for day 189 of 365 days of soap, and today we're doing an FAQ, because it's been a while since we've done one of those guys, and I get a lot of questions from you, and I see a lot of questions on the interwebs, all the things, and so we are going to be talking about my most frequently asked questions, as well as the things that I most frequently see on the interwebs, doing the things today. And I actually haven't laid down the audio for this yet, so I'm not 100% sure what we're going to talk about. So, let's go figure all that out together. Okay, so first up today, let's talk about water replacements. Now, I get a lot of questions about water replacements and, what they're used for, what the point of it is, should it be a full water replacement, a partial water replacement, etc., etc., etc. So let's talk about that. First, let's talk about what a water replacement even is. What does that mean? Well, when you're making your lye solution, right, you usually mix it with water. And so that's what water replacement means. It's taking all or part of what you would normally put in a recipe in water and changing it to something else, like a juice or a milk or a beer or a wine or a puree or a hard alcohol. The list goes on with the really weird things that you can actually put in your lye solutions in place of water. And I'm actually going to be doing a deep dive on that in a couple weeks because I get a lot of questions about weird stuff in lye, and it might be easier just to do it in a big, long, deep dive sesh. Anyway, full or partial water replacement. Honestly, there are a lot of reasons why you would do a full or a partial, and it all really has to do with the type of soap you're making, whether it's hot process or cold process, and two, what you want your soaping experience to be, and see really what it is that you're putting in to the soap in place of the water. For me personally, for like milks, beers, and wines, I do a 100% water replacement in the lye solution itself. So all water that was needed, I replace with a beer or a wine or a milk, and I don't have any problems with it. The only time that I would ever do something other than that would be if I decided to do like a hot process recipe with a beer or a wine or a milk, and I would then probably withhold half my milk or my beer or my wine and put it in after the cook to really loosen up that batter and make it easier to color and swirl and pour. So, because that's another thing to keep in mind when we are talking about water replacements. Remember, when you are mixing your lye solution, you don't need that total amount that is called for in a recipe. Let's say 12 ounces of water is called for in a recipe and 5 ounces of lye. You don't need that full 12 ounces in with your lye solution right off the bat. Really, all you need in your initial lye solution to dissolve your lye is the same amount of water as you have lye in the solution, right? So if it's 5 ounces of lye, you only need 5 ounces of water to actually dissolve the lye into your thing, which means you have 7 more ounces of liquid to play with. So in that case, you could take that 7 ounces and make it milk after emulsification, which would make it easier to incorporate. And a lot of people believe that the milk properties and the beer properties and the wine properties actually work better when they're added after emulsification and or a cook if you're doing hot process. That's a whole different video in and of itself about why that logic has benefits and also does not. So, but it would make it easier. Your lye would not scorch, it would not discolor. It would be an easier way to really loosen up an overly thick batter. I mean, there are lots of reasons why you would put in that extra 7 ounces after you've hit your emulsion. But you can also put it in all at once, and that's fine too. Again, you would be dealing with the potential of your lye water discoloring, and therefore you're working with a discolored batch right from the very beginning. So, browns and reds and what have you based on what you're using. And you also are working with the potential of the sugars in the, the beers or the wines or whatnot, actually consuming more of that lye than you necessarily want. However, on the flip side, there's no guarantee that you're not already working with that problem with the sugar alcohols and the lye consumption. And also with something that also has a fat to it, like a milk, for example, you're also increasing the superfat in your batches regardless. So those again are secondary questions, but to the question of a full or a partial water replacement, kind of whatever you want to do. I would say though, for something like a puree, and I did a couple puree videos in the beginning of the channel, it's usually better to put the puree in after the fact. So most things, your aloe juices, your beers, your wines, your milks, they are going to react, your teas, they're going to react basically the same way. And it might get a little bit hot, it might bubble up a little bit. Be cognizant of that. Your lye solution might brown. But with a puree, things can get weird and chunky. Like, go back and watch my avocado puree video from year 1, and you'll see how weird that is. Like, I ended up having to take, because essentially all of the liquid that was in the avocado puree, all of the water that exists within the avocado itself, separated from the fats. And so I was left with putting it directly into the lye solution. So I was left with a whole bunch of, fat that I had to kind of push through the sieve and ultimately just sieve out entirely and remove from the batch because it was weird. So with a puree, that would be a reason to do a partial water replacement. So just take, again, in this example of 5 ounces of lye and 12 ounces of your liquid, do 5 ounces of lye, 5 ounces of water to dissolve your lye, and then 7 ounces of a puree afterwards. And that's another good thing to keep in mind if you're doing like a yogurt for the exact same reason. Basically anything that's really thick, you want to do in a partial water replacement after emulsion has been hit. And when you are working with hot process, I highly recommend reserving, half-ish of your water to add to the end of the cook to, again, liquefy the batch again, make it smooth, make it pourable, all of the things. But is there any real reason why you would do a full versus a partial, or, do a full within the lye solution or reserve and do it later? Not really. There's really no real rhyme or reason to it. It really does depend on, again, what you're going for. And If you are going for an easier pour, then yeah, it's probably a good idea to reserve part of your water and put it in after you've hit an emulsion and your purees and your milks and all the jazz. As far as a scientific benefit to it, there's not one. There really isn't. Full water, partial water, it doesn't really matter, and it can be done at any stage in the soaping. You just have to remember, again, you need an equal part water to dissolve that lye first and foremost, and then you can play with the rest of the water in the batch. Okay, next up on a question I actually get a lot is when to superfat. Now, this is actually an interesting question, and one of the reasons why it is so common right now is because apparently there's been a new trend with soap makers on the YouTubes and stuff of a new heightened trend. It's not like this was just an invented, like a recently invented thing. It's just more soap makers are doing it right now, so people have questions. So the idea of adding your super fats after you've hit emulsion, so this is again like when to add things to recipes instead of just putting it in with all of your base oils, right? Now, this is an interesting question because in my classes, not my master soap making classes, because those are wildly more in depth, but just for like my classes where somebody's getting a group of friends together and they just want to come make a batch of soap and don't super duper care about the process, but I want them to care about the process and to pick their oils and butters and whatnot. I will essentially superfat their recipes at 7% and give them their quote-unquote special oil or butter in a separate container that does not go through the emulsion, the initial emulsion stage, and we instead use that to disperse the micas into, so then we can color the sections of their soap batter and then they can do their fun pour. Now, does that actually provide a benefit? So if the superfat is argan oil, for example, and the rest of the oils in the batch are, olive oil, coconut, and palm. And argan oil is the one oil that has not gone through the initial emulsion. Well, practically, no, it doesn't really make a difference. Not really. It really does depend on, this all goes back to sort of the chemistry of the oils and how easy they are to saponify, right? So it's going back to like the coconut oil deep dive and, well, all of the deep dives where we have talked about the fatty acid profiles and the fatty acid chains. And so the length of the chain, essentially how much work the lye needs to, do in order to convert the fatty acids into a salt, right? And so does it change the soap? Are you more likely to get the qualities of the argan if you reserve that 7% of argan that you included in your batch and don't put it through the first emulsion? Anecdotally, there are going to be opinions on both sides. Scientifically, not really. Not really. There are already too many other factors involved in, the temperature that you're mixing. Did you take it to just an emulsion, or is it at like a medium trace or a thick trace, and then you're adding the oils in? I mean, there are a lot of other variables that need to be controlled to even super make that determination. So I would say probably not ish. Because also, to that, once you hit emulsion, your lye and your oils are doing their thing, right? There is exactly enough lye and exactly enough oils in your pot to fully saponify every single bit of the oils that are in that pot. And then you add, 7% more oils after emulsion has already begun. Logically that flows, then yeah, that argan oil is still going to show up. Again, there is no real way to show that without controlling all of the other variables. Now, in something like hot process, putting in a special oil at the end, sure, Sure. It would have to be like a really special oil though. Like it couldn't just be here's more coconut. If you did just do here's more coconut, it's going to have the benefit of just like with the water replacement and reserving a portion of your water until later on in the pour to incorporate into the batter. It is going to add more fluidity to the batter, and that's good. That's good for hot process and cold process. Actually, one of the ways that I have found to make the most successful teardrop soaps are to do it just like that and have like my 7% super fat already out of the mixture, and I just use that to create my colors for the teardrop itself, and then just pour a little bit of soap batter, of the emulsified soap batter, into each to thicken it up slightly, but it allows the actual colored portion for a teardrop to be fluid enough that it will do its thing through the batch. So for design purposes, yeah, adding your super fat after emulsion, yeah, you can do. Practically, does it make a difference? Not really. Not really. But again, we add extra oils all of the time to our recipes, right? Like we pour off a portion of our base oils into separate containers and disperse our micas into them, right? Or our clays or our whatever. And so those oils are not going through the first round of emulsion either. And so, you know, maybe. Definitely good for design purposes, reserving a portion of your oils. Not a lot though. I honestly would not ever go more than like 10% taken away from the batch with a 10% super fat, because especially if you're working with weird oils like castor or something, because castor oil, that's a weird oil in what it does in saponification. And so I would prefer to put, a really thick, very unique oil like castor into the entire batch just to ensure that it is going to hit that emulsion, it is going to saponify. Otherwise, your bars get sticky and weird. And that's one of the problems that you are going to run into if you start playing around with when to add your super fat, and that answer is later after emulsion. You're going to run into the potential of your bars being very soft, your bars weeping, the oil's not saponifying at all, and things getting weird. It's definitely more of an advanced soap maker thing to do. So if you're brand new starting off in the game, I wouldn't recommend it. But can you do? Sure. Is there a real benefit? I don't know. Do it one way and do it the other way and control all other variables in said pour and test those bars. You tell me. Do you like them more? Do they perform better? Do they last longer? Etc., etc., etc. So that would be my recommendation. If you are a more seasoned soap maker and you want to play around with that, yeah, test it. Try it. One batch with all of the super fat in your base oils, another batch with your super fat outside of, and see which one you like better. And then report back to us, because part of this whole soapy journey is we teach each other things. I have my own opinions on that. And again, remember, I teach my classes with reserved super fats, but scientifically, practically, I don't know. You tell me. That is day 189, a Q&A sesh. And there you have it, a new FAQ answering some FAQs while stamping some beautiful bars of soap. To the bars of soap, do you see how much they darkened? The gingerbread lattes that we did, a few days ago or whatever, they darkened a lot during cure. So that's awesome. They're definitely dark and beautiful and awesome right now. And actually, I think for day 9 of 10 days of thanks, some of you got that soap in a little gift set, because I gave away something for everybody, like little gift sets for everybody on Thanksgiving, so nobody had to scramble for the coupon code. So if you got one, hey, let me know below, because I did send out some of those to you guys. Anyway, frequently asked questions. There are some of them, and I hope I answered them in a way that makes some sense and maybe gave you some information and all the jazz. If you have other frequently asked questions and stuff you want to know, leave them below, and we will be doing another one of these actually very soon, because I was unable to cover everything that I really wanted to in this one, so we'll get 2 more very soon. So leave your comments below. Let me know. I'd love to chit chat with you now, later, always, all the things. If you want to be notified of the next time I do an FAQ or, a video in general, it's every day. I do it every day. Subscribe, even though I do it every day, because that would be cool. Subscribe and like and comment for the engagement and help this Soapy channel grow. That would be excellent. For those of you who have helped this Soapy channel grow, thank you. You guys are amazing. I love each and every one of you so very much, and I love actually getting to communicate with you in the comments and do all the things, and when you guys do the lives or send me messages, tag me on Insta. It's cool. It's really awesome, this awesome Soapy family that we've created, and I'm totally here for it. So thank you. I'm out of here for today, but I will see you guys all again tomorrow for another round of Soapy fun. Bye.